Welcome back, everybody, to part 2 of our interview with Brian McCarthy. We begin by asking Brian about how his role might change depending on the specifications of the manager. Here, he speaks to us about Ireland from Kerr to Trapp.
As you say, Conor, every manager has a different approach, but all with the same end purpose, which is to get a result in the match. With Brian, I had known Brian obviously in my role as a development officer before the job. I remember Brian showing me his actually on the way over to do my training for Sports Code, which was the software we used and still use. Brian showed me his presentation for the application for the international senior job, and it was at home. He had every single detail. Now Brian had gone through Genesis with a fine-tooth comb, and he was going to apply Genesis the way Genesis had been written after the 2002 World Cup. So all those small little details of improvements, anywhere he could improve the game for the international team especially and the association, he was going to do his best. So I knew that he was a really man for huge detail, but also very fastidious. Placed very high demands on himself, which is always a key point, and obviously that means he places high demands on his staff. But that, in hindsight, that's a wonderful thing because it extends you as a person. So when Brian got the job, we just got the news in Abu Dhabi, as I said, and our first game was against Scotland, Hampden Park, and straight away, Brian, we had meetings in Dublin. He wanted as much, and it's only VHS tapes in those days. So quickly we developed a kind of a template of what he wanted, forensic detail on individual players. Our first 2 qualifiers were Georgia and Albania, both away. Georgia had some very good players there. People like Spy was playing. They had the great Milan centre half, Kaladze, and they had Kobiashvili and Yashvili, 2 excellent players in Freiburg. Now, nobody here knew about those players, and he said, "You make sure you get some video on those." So I want them from their club as well. So from an early stage, not only did he want it from the international team, and you couldn't get that many videos of George in those days. No Wisecout, none of these platforms. So I had to break some of those players. Murati, the Maradona of the Balkans, the Albanian left winger, brilliant player. He was places covered in Murati slogan. I never heard Murati at all before we played in Albania, but by the time we finished with him, I knew who he was. That's for sure. So Brian wanted that forensic detail. Okay, straight away. We were the very first analysis outfit for the FAI over all the years on a proper basis. And with Chris Hewton and Packy Bonner were with us and Noel. Chris was fantastic. He was a great guiding light for all of us. His professionalism, he could watch corner set pieces, phases of play for hours on end without ever flagging. He just had that. He'd write his details down and what he wanted. And Brian didn't want to leave any stone unturned with weather conditions and training pitches. Obviously, I filmed everything. I realized very quickly without even telling me about a camera. Wasn't very good in the camera in those days, but everything was filmed, every training session. We went into big level. I had all the presentation skills, but we're going into the international team. I've never had any previous. Jack Carton didn't use video analysis there. Mick would have started bringing a little bit in, but this is a whole new dawn here for international players in Ireland. So we certainly knew the opposition inside out, and in hindsight, that's still a great thing. You have to know the opposition inside out. The big thing, of course, as time goes on, is how much do you let the players know, and you have to get that balance right. But we definitely worked very hard too, and we did get the balance right for the second campaign, I think.
Just talk to me just on that point about the time, like the timing of having you were the first Republic of Ireland technical analyst. But you look at into our professional clubs now, there's analysis departments, right? Whole departments, and the whole area is blown up. It's massive part of the game now. There wasn't even a lot of Premier League clubs doing what Brian. I know Bolton and Sam Allardyce was probably ahead of the curve there. But 20 Premier League clubs weren't at what you were at that time. Would that be fair to say that?
I think so. And a lot of international teams weren't at that level. I mean, the other thing too is that, Brian he was always looking for, if you're an Irish manager, you always are looking for a little advantage, because we don't have the player pool and we don't have the depth. So you have to find every advantage you possibly can. Joe Public thinks that we've got 20 Ronaldos in the squad, but we don't. And, so Brian, we were all very, very aware, having been an A-licensed coach and having been successful with the teams, I felt I had a huge knowledge. I learned an awful lot from the managers afterwards, of course I did, but I had a lot. I wouldn't say I was on the same level as the guys in the clubs. I felt I was well ahead of those guys from a football knowledge point of view, and I had the technical skills. Now they're mostly young guys there, and they're very good at what they do, and there's a raft of them at every club now. But really, what it boils down to when you work for top managers is they don't need this massive list of minutiae. Okay, now it can be very useful at a press conference or to save their skin when a question comes up on statistics, but by and large they're looking for small numbers of details. And with Brian, we worked very, very hard. I mean, filming the sessions was a new thing for the players. I mean, I got dog's abuse from Stephen Kerr and quite a few of the boys there, and a lot of comments thrown my direction. Words to the effect, go home, go back to the hotel, what are you doing here? And there was that kind of, slightly kind of jaundiced eye, what are we, his big brother watching us here, which was never the intention. And Brian didn't even ask me to initially, but then he realised that, there was a huge value in having even training games filmed there. We used to train in Cook Park, then Talk Row sometimes, obviously out in Malahide. And so really, he was very forensic in getting information and detailed reports, okay? And I would make them out myself, and their diagrams and how they played, and we'd meet them up and we'd been on the phone a lot. And of course, the near games, it came to big games, but he was very, very clever on also seeing, the players, our own players, of course, but I was more concerned really at that stage with the opposition players, who they were playing with, what their form was like, how many games had they played in a row. We had to look at the referees. Even then, we were looking at referees. And there wasn't a lot of footage on referees, but what was their pattern? What were they? Did the away team win more often with them refereeing? Because there are patterns. I mean, people may say, "Oh, no, there's not," but there can be patterns with referees too. So there wasn't, and of course, very big in logistics. I mean, logistics for everything. I from the very first match against Scotland in Hampden Park, we stayed in. I think it was Kilmarnock is the ground there, hotel. And I think, as I said before to you, that the presentation, I was 5 minutes late starting it, my very first presentation, because the hotel's projector had fouled up, and I was all ready to go. Next thing, it went on the blink, and presentation in front of all these star players that I brought Stephen and Peter up to watch over the years, all great household names, and this thing didn't start on time, and he didn't say anything to me. This is his first presentation as well. This is his first time meeting the players. And back in the hotel in Dublin, prior to departure back home, just pulled me aside and said, I said, that ever happens again, your last job. And I was never as nervous or petrified going back on a journey, and I knew he meant every second syllable of what he said, okay? And because he knew that my 5-minute delay was a reflection on him, right? Mm-hmm. And then it just gets out to the press and the players start talking, and it just became a habit. So Brian was very, and I knew this from working with underage teams, okay? And then from that moment on, he changed my whole outlook. I had 2 projectors myself. I had 2 of this, I had 2 laptops, so 2 hard drives. So I realised that, I can't be in a presentation on one laptop because I've got the other laptop ready with a presentation on it, just in case. I don't think many analysts in the world were thinking like that in those days. But I had to, because the manager I had such high standards. And not just for him, but he had high ambitions for all of us. So that was a huge learning curve for later on. I mean, Brian gave me such. I did my degree with Brian in that. Honestly, you couldn't go to John Moore's and get even close to what Brian gave me, because and Chris Hewton and Packy as well. Packy was very, very, always looking at the goalkeeping. We'd film that there, and we'd use it with the goalkeepers. And Packy created that whole. Environment there where suddenly goalkeepers are now looking at their training, and it just hadn't happened before, and then analysing it, breaking it down, and using the software, obviously we could slow it down, etc. Leading up to big games, Brian was on a because don't get Brian was very, first of all he was a manager that was a lot of people in Ireland wanted him to get the job at that time, because being an Irishman, not that because an Irishman of course he was, but being a local guy there, that's made it good into the Irish top job. and he felt a particular conscience on it. I mean, it was a particular weight on his shoulders that he's given this hugely onerous and lofty position, and he didn't want to leave anybody down, and he didn't want to, and he wanted to be a success at it, which he certainly was, from my point of view, in terms of his record of 17 wins, 11 draws, 4 losses. So that transition then. So when it was difficult when Brian eventually left the job after the final game against Switzerland in a 0-0 draw, and again we missed Roy Keane. Roy Keane was suspended for that game, and Damien Duff was injured, and we still had an outside chance going into that game. That was such a tricky campaign. I mean, we only lost one game. I mean, we lost 2 qualifiers in the 2 qualifying campaigns. So one was the last game in Basel in the 2004, having started with 2 defeats in an 8-game tournament. So we had 6 games left. To try and qualify. So and second was playoff, and third was nowhere. But that's the way it was. And then the campaign that followed was the 2006 World Cup campaign, where everyone drew. Israel, France, Switzerland, ourselves all drew, apart from one game. A game that Roy Keane probably one of his finest ever performances. And Henri, who was about to be taken off, and it's funny because I used to sit in the old cement box in Lansdowne Road, and I could see all the numbers going up on this French bench. They were panicking. And they had Henri's number and Zidane's number. They were both going to be taken off. That is a fact. And the next thing, they got that situation, was a free kick, and then Henri bends it right round Shay Given. Shay Given watched that video back on the replay he must have watched it 20 times. He could not accept that he'd been beaten by that. And he'd go over and over again. And it kind of bent. It was one of those specials that Henri could bend it outside the post and back in. And that was that one moment that did for us, because Keane ran. I got so many phone calls from people saying, "Could you get this copy of Roy Keane's performance that night?" Because McAlealy was playing, Zidane playing, they were all playing, and Keane, in the all draw would have kept us right in touch. So it was the only game that separated the 4 teams in results.
And it was a moment of magic. Do you know, like when you think you're involved with the preparation of, here's who we're going to play against. These are the things they're going to do. But I think Richard Dunn was centre back that day, and as an Arsenal fan, I know that Henri at that kind of time was having a good time against Man City a lot of the time, kind of running past Richard Dunn, if you like.
Yeah.
So I think if you were preparing for that game, you would have almost been, I won't say you'd be happy to see Henri pick the ball up there, but you would have almost, like, it was just a complete moment of magic in how he popped into the hole and the way he received the ball and kind of bent it around. Shay Given saw it late, I think, didn't he?
Yes, he did. But
you couldn't plan for it, like
angles.
Yeah.
But that's what comes with a world-class player.
Yeah.
There's most players are here, and then there's the few world-class players, and he was one. Now, by the way, most of those French team there played in the '98 World Cup winning team and the 2000 European Champions winning team, so they were the same team that played us. And we've had that experience with the German side of the recent years, the Spanish side, and the Italian side of 2006. So we've actually played all those teams and their pomp. So that was such a fine march. And I remember going back to the hotel after the Switzerland game, talking to Chris Hughton, because Chris is very, very savvy, worked lots of managers at Tottenham. I felt, what's his gut feeling? He said, Brian's done a great job. He says, he was very, very sure that Brian would be retained, but wasn't to be. No, Stan came in, and when Stan came in, I still had my 5-year teaching break, and if I wasn't going to get an invitation to stay in the international team, with all due respect to the regional officer program, I was going to go back to teaching, because now that I was given this great opportunity to work at that level, I realised I could do it. The thing is that, and I'm sure that Jared Dunn is there at the moment. Jared's a great lad there, and he just talked to me the other day and said the same thing. It's a level that's so high that you have to be up for it, because it could kill you. And there are guys that the weight of it is. I'm sure there are guys that could work with Marino, and guys who can't, because you're at that level where every single day you're being asked, hard questions, you'll be given important tasks, and you either can do it. And it's a mental thing as much as anything else. And so, look, I was fortunate that I was able to do it, but that was through the grounding that I got from lots of people. So when Stan came in, he rang me and he said, "I'd like you to continue." So delighted. Stan, absolute gentleman. I mean, what a great guy to work with. I mean, we had so many laughs with him, so many good times with him. Players were so passionate to play for Stan. I mean, a lot of them played with him. They felt such. I mean, you had to. The public don't see this, and the press don't portray it. But because a lot of guys had played with Stan in those years and knew him and as a friend as well, you know, he was a real big brother, like a father figure to them, and they wanted to do so well for him, you know. And preparations for the first qualifier was Germany away. You know, I didn't go now because they made a slight change of plan, but I was brought back into. But I was working with the team still. But we prepared. I was there for the preparations in Dublin there, and the preparations were excellent. And Stan's game plan for that game was absolutely top notch. You know, and it took a wickedly deflected Podolski free kick, a la Wim Kieft 88. Okay, which is completely not in the German script. They didn't mean to do that. And we lost 1-0, and then Stan with the water bottle got suspended for the Cyprus game. Now there's guys throwing water bottles in the Premiership there week in, week out now, and there's not the slightest fine or punishment being given out to them. Anyway, Stan had to sit out that very, very important game in Cyprus, and from that moment on, I was doing very, very detailed reports with Stan. Okay, and I think Stan was he knew the value of video analysis. There had been a perception, the Sunday Times started, that it was paralysis by analysis under Brian, okay, which was complete bunkum, right? Now, obviously, players, we were learning the system. By the second campaign, I think we got the Times down to really, we fine-tuned it there. We were all learning on and even Chris wouldn't have been using as much, and he'll tell you now, for example, he's using Brighton all the time now, but back in those days, as you point out to Conor, this wasn't the widely used a tool that it is now, and you don't have the kind of seamless transition. I mean, video content now just flies back and forth, and you can mark X's, draw circles, draw arrows, but all that wasn't available in the early editions or versions of the pattern software. So when Stan came in, I think he realised quickly, and then we played Czech Republic in that 1-1 draw, and then Stan asked me, because the team needed to be picking up after the Cyprus game, he said, Could you do any motivation side? So I never done motivation before because I was just doing analysis. But I did it actually with the Dynamos team, and I had done that thing. I was always into sports psychology and always talking to people. I did some very good things with sports psychology for the Dynamos team. I won the Youth Cup. I said to the guys, we've got a telegram here from the mayor of Tralee before the match from this person there. Told them we get all these telegrams in, for example, and really built them up. And I used motivation music on the bus, and I used to do all our warm-ups there for both Kingdom Boys and Dynamos away from match venues to really get into them, so that we would go straight to the ground, straight on the pitch, so they wouldn't even allow nerves. So I was way ahead of always watching and reading books, just like you are, Conor. So when Stan asked me to do the motivation one there, lucky enough, Al Pacino had the piece by inches, which was great to go back to and then just use some footage. Went down very well, and the lads said, you know, can we? There's no reason why you won, lost, or draw, but it was just a kind of feel-good factor. We'd been battered by the press after the Cyprus game, and then we recovered well. I mean, I know we had the San Marino near miss, and Stephen Erden scored late on, and then we had the two games in Croke Park, the opening games, and look, I've been through all the stadium at this stage in terms of new ones and old ones coming down, and so the game against. Yes, Wales, Gareth Bale played, young Gareth Bale played, and Damien Duff tore him apart. Now he's worth what? And then we played Slovakia, and Kevin Doyle's got a goal. So we were back, and we won both games 1-0, and we were back in the campaign. And now Stan, the stage was really into the analysis, and he had his own template. And they all had their own templates of things they were looking at. So I've got all those still on the system, and how each of them look for particular types of information there, and not always characterised by a single click of a button as an event, for example. Okay. So now I was starting to formulate my own kind of tactical buttons there, which I put names on as I had conversations with the manager. And as each match arose, they had another little thing they wanted. And then I started getting into second. And the more you study the training sessions, and I was very fortunate over all the years up to Martin being involved in all the team meetings with the staff. All right, so usually analysts wouldn't normally have that luxury. They have now, I'm sure, but. There was a time, I'm sure the analyst was sitting outside where the main decisions are being taken on team selection, but I was always inside the room. Not that I only saying it, so I was learning how they were picking teams. I was learning, you pick up every single little thing, the characteristics they're looking for, personality, whatever they're looking for in a player. You're starting to realise that's, you know, watch the training sessions with that in mind now. Okay, so now so I can watch training sessions and tell you exactly what players are training to the level and to the detail that the manager will require for the match and who's likely to be selected. I can tell you that 4 or 5 have no chance of being picked. And that's because you realise, and good players like Stephen Hunt, they realise that quickly because, part of your job as a professional footballer or a professional athlete is to persuade the manager to pick you. I mean, that's the job. I even say to our own boys in junior college, you want to get in the first team, he says, your job is to impress me and train every single day. It's not my job to impress you. I will impress you, don't worry. We'll make sure the training sessions run absolutely top notch. But you have to show me, and there's 40 of you there, 1 to 11 places. And that's the same for the national team. But go back to Stan there. So he really bought into it there. We had somebody mentioned Bratislava to me yesterday. And my wife mentioned actually there, just talking about Bratislava. And we went to Bratislava with a great chance to qualifying, even with that bad match start against Germany and Cyprus. And we were 2-1 up into added time, 93 minutes. And we had the ball in the left corner. It's funny how it's the same left corner. It was a different corner this time. The left corner. Darren Murphy was on. Bratislava, we were 2-0 up. We played Real. Steve Arnold scored. And the second score was.
Is the lad from Man City, was it? Was it?
Stephen scored, yeah, he scored 1. And Stephen had a very good match that night. We played Robbie. Robbie could have scored. We were 2-0 up. And Stan made a couple of changes there. And, we had the ball in the left. We were up on the other box there. We had the ball. And it was just a matter of keeping the ball in the box there. A couple of seconds there. Be clever. Get a throw and get a corner kick, whatever it is, okay? But just delay the game. We were naive, lost the ball, got caught in the break 2-2, and so that was a big, and that was Steve Barron's last game for Ireland, by the way. And so we went to the Prague then a few days later. On the analysis side there, we knew then when Stephen Hunt got sent off in the game, and they had a very, very good side. With Kohler and Nedved and all these guys were all playing. They were at their peak. Yeah. That Czech side. I thought our analysis all the way through was really excellent during that time. Stan didn't have Sir Bobby Robson for most of that time, so Bobby was ill. And when John Delaney appointed both Stan and Sir Bobby, it was a really fantastic pairing in terms of that experience with an Irish guy who had such huge respect, a centurion in his own right. And I think by the end of it, Stan had the detail that Brian would have been, forensic about. Stan became that way as the campaign went on. And maybe if we had kept that forensic approach all the way through, he would have stood us in bed. But not having your top class, world class manager, so Bobby Robson, available to you through that time, was probably the biggest loss in eventually Stan. Unfortunately, lost his job. But we were that close. Stan was very, very unlucky. Great guy to work with, so personable there. All the staff and players loved him. And then that led into. Again, you never knew at the end of each campaign whether the staff had been kept on. That was always a worry for myself and my wife at that time. I think I could still go back teaching that stage. It was coming to last year over there. It was 2008. I'd have had a right to Department of Education and make a special case actually at that stage. And John Delaney, John said, look, he wanted to retain all the international staff and then Giovanni Trapattoni was announced. When he was announced, I knew Trapattoni. I used to buy World Soccer all the way through as a kid and shoot, right? I knew he was done. He was voted World Coach of the Century, okay? With his background, right? I watched the videos, you could see it on YouTube nowadays, but I used to follow the European football big time in the 70s, 80s. I could tell you all the European Cup winners, and Juventus was such a huge team. Galaccio, the TV program came on RT, there's a show Italian football there, way back in the 80s, 90s, became a very popular. And Italian football was where the Premiership is now. Premiership was down here. There was no Premiership, it was the first division in those days. And so Trapattoni was just, we've just landed the lottery year. This is.
You mentioned on the last podcast about players not knowing about the achievements of players that preceded them. Nonetheless, Trapattoni walks into a room. Was there kind of an aura about him?
Oh yeah. Conor, it's a good point you're making because, when a manager walks into a room, I've had this conversation with John O'Shea about Alex Ferguson, and John just worships the ground which Alex walks on, and so do most of the players. Funny is Eric Harrison was the United coach for the FA Youth Cup winning team. David Beckham still has to look away from him. He's he was so fearful of him in those days that he still has that respect and awe. He's just afraid of him. But he said, what? And in those days, all those schools, they'd all say Neville's. They'd all say they swept the stands. They did all those jobs. It was Harrison would keep him an hour later on that day. I mean, Harrison would finish at 4 o'clock, and if he didn't like the train session, he'd make him stay an hour later. And in those days, you could, because it wasn't awash with agents and all these other people. Nowadays, the clubs are falling all over themselves there to keep all these young boys happy. But and not always with a great end product, because they spend so much money and time and don't get the reward at the end of it. But the question was in relation to
just you mentioned in the last podcast that Trapattoni's won everything you can win as a player and as a manager, but the bubble that your professional footballer lives in, many of the players that he coached with Ireland probably wouldn't even appreciate that, let's put it. But at the same time, when he walked into a room, Giovanni Trapattoni, you did kind of get a sense that this was a different type of a guy, didn't you?
Yeah, I think that we had a great bunch of guys in the squad then, and they were really football fans as well. Robbie and Damien, all those guys are Shade, John. I mean, you're going back to a lot of players at that time that a lot of them are still in the team. Yeah. Glenn was only coming into the team at that stage, and Keith and so on there. But they all knew about Trapattoni, especially and it's the league guys always. They are the league guys for a reason. They're the league guys on the pitch. They're the league guys in training. They're the league guys in the hotel. They set the agenda. The manager, of course, sits on top of all that, but he will always depend on having that second tier, that hierarchy of top class. They knew Trapattoni inside out. And when he came into the first meeting room, when he first met us there, it's just calmness. I'm absolutely certain Ranieri had the same effect in Leicester City last year when he had his first training session. He just comes in and you're just looking at a guy. I've read all his 6 titles and all he's won the first manager. We know that, and I've done videos on him. But there's a calmness. So when he actually came in his very first meeting with the staff, all of us in the Portmarnock Golf Hotel, straight away he wanted to make sure, the point he was trying to make was, and his English would have got better and better as time went on. And Manuela was his translator. Of course, we had Marco Celli on board as well, World Cup winning player and goal scorer. And that was a big thing to everything with Marco Tardelli. So it was a great partnership, Marco and Giovanni. So when he came to the hotel and spoke to the staff, I mean, he wanted to make sure that we were all on the same hymn sheet. And he'd been around a long time. He knew that players would become very friendly with staff, and he was never, and we are very friendly. All the players are so friendly with staff. It's a great relationship. But he always wanted to make sure that the staff were in unison with the manager, because players will say something to a staff member, okay? And our staff are so good that way. That's just in-house. That's never said a word, okay? You don't take a player's concern to the manager and say, the manager, John thinks he should be in the team. Giovanni, why he's not in the team? It doesn't work that way, right? So he had a trust. He said, you have to trust me. He said, and we always trusted him. And even the hotel, he had a calmness. He saw us hurrying around the place. We wanted to impress him. We wanted to show that, because as a staff, we're under pressure now, because here is one of the greatest managers of all time who's just come into the Irish. How did Ireland get him? I mean, that's half the world are probably saying, how did Ireland get Giovanni Trapattoni to manage them? So we're all trying to impress him, none more so than myself, and trying to make sure that I understand what he wants. And he kept saying calm. And he had this calming influence, not just on the team, on me, on the staff, on the hotel staff. It's like you walk into, it's like, I'm sure it's like having the best surgeon in the world for the most important operation. You just won the lottery. You've got the guy you can just put all your trust in. He's the only one you can do that, by the way. And that's how it felt with Giovanni. So from that moment, the players had huge respect. And of course, when he stood at meetings, he had that over about him. He would grab people, and he would just physically grab them and stand them up, okay? And he had this passion when he was presenting the meetings. And he said, I'm Mark Duseba. I know my job. I was a water carrier. That was the word he used to use in Italy. Water carrier. In other words, he never rated himself as a player. But he was an effective player. He won caps for Italy. He won both as a manager and a player the European Cup. He's hugely respected in Italy as a player and as a manager. And I'm Mark Eusebio. I'm Mark Pele. I'm Mark Crive. Now, if you're not responding to that, and you're an Irish player who hasn't won a fraction of what he's won, and if you had all the Irish players, and John O'Shea, John was our one regular player at that stage. Roy had gone playing Champions League, but nobody else playing Champions League. 47 players were playing for France in the Champions League in 2009 when we played them. So he had that immediately, and of course as a staff, he was just saying, this is unbelievable. And then, he was fastidious on the training ground. I mean, he gave me all his diagrams very quickly, things he wanted, drills and games he wanted to do, 2v2s, quickly worked out a game plan for the Irish. Had asked for the previous 2 years of videos of the team. He wanted it. He had us all analysed before he came. And if you read the books, he went into Easton's in Dublin before he got the job. You could have bought some of the Italian Calcio books. So that's probably me. And if you had read his book, you would have seen that he had 2 defensores, as the Italian word for centrocampista, right? Central midfielder. He always had 2 holding players in his teams. So suddenly our press were amazed that he had 2 holding players. You're saying, do they do any research at all? Have they not looked at all his teams over the years? Fiorentina, Inter Milan, AC Milan, Juventus. You just, Benfica, Bayern Munich, Stuttgart, I think as well. So immediately it became apparent to us there. So immediately he was starting educating me, and Brian's education allowed me to work with Giovanni Trapattoni. If I hadn't had that period with Brian, I would not have had the skill set, the mindset, and the ability to do that. But Brian, I brought a lot of things to Giovanni that he didn't realise he'd get. But he kept saying to me, my obsession is your obsession. That was and sometimes the 12th player, he used to call, not me, and the video was the 12th player, okay? And he bought in big time into the power of it. The man was 67, 68 years of age. And he realised if the players could see really good examples, and international players are extremely intelligent guys, they do not need, and that's the one thing I did learn over the years, they don't need rafts of video. If you pick 1 or 2 really fantastic pieces out, and you might have 20 of those pieces, but you pick out the 1 or 2 best and slow it down and make your relevant points as a manager, they get it. And if they're marking a player and they say, Brian, have you got that video? There's a 5-minute video on the left winger after 2 minutes. Great, Brian, I've seen enough, perfectly understand. Don't need to see the 5 minutes, but I've seen the 2 minutes. So what he did in terms of analysis, then go back to your question on that, is that he really started to break the game down for me as an analyst. He broke the game down for the players, because now he was doing lots of, so he's obviously, like any good manager, you start with the back. 14 games unbeaten, 8 clean sheets in a row, 2 Irish records at the time, should have still there. And immediately we worked very hard. Set pieces, the work he did in set pieces was incredible, okay? Defending and attacking there. And the number of times he stopped a session, would say to the free kick taker, especially, and even more on the creative side, he was brilliant on the creative set pieces, where he'd just make a point to you, but your walk. He was giving information to international players to adjust their run-up by a metre, or adjust their angle, or adjust their distance, okay? And you could see Duff was looking at one day and just saying to himself, what the hell, this is why he's one of the greatest managers in the world. You could just see it in Duff's eyes.
And his method, was it just a quiet word, or was it a point to the group with those little details? It was individual for that player at that moment?
Do you know what it was, Conor? And I'm sure if you ask some of the guys at the very big clubs, the big successful managers, when you got the group together at the start of a training session and you have a little huddle, that was the huddle really. But even before the session started, even if we had just gone out and played drafts or Ludo or dominoes, he just had his calmness, everyone. And then you're looking at the guy, you know when you've been to, I said before about the doctor, you go to 5 doctors, but there's one doctor's fantastic. You really trust him, you always feel calm with him. You always, the other 4 you're not too sure of. And the players had that as well. We just knew this man is in charge. He knows what he's doing. Whatever he's done in the past has been successful. Anything he does, take it on board, learn, listen, do it, right? And the players and the staff, and in the medical side, you ask Alan Byrne, he said the best manager he's ever worked with. He said his knowledge of medicine was way ahead of any manager he ever worked with. He knew inside out. He quizzed Alan on every single injury. Any report, Alan had to justify it there. He knew medical terms. He knew types of medical conditions that Alan said that he didn't realise managers knew about, because he worked with Italian players, and they have a very scientific. They had the blood, all that kind of stuff there. They were well ahead of anybody back in the 70s, 80s. So we had him in his prime as well, at 67, 68. His mind is still unbelievable at that stage. And but come back to the analysis side there, is that he really made me work on, and then he'd watch games, he'd bring you at night time, I've seen a game here, I've seen there's a situation, I want that for the players. It could be totally unrelated to us, nothing to do with international football. It could be a Champions League game, it could be Europa League, it could be Serie A, it could be La Liga, it could be a League Cup final, it could be, it was indeed, the Portsmouth versus Tottenham game. The left midfielder who was ex-Spurs playing for Portsmouth, who played in that game, was at the end of the wall, ducked, was into extra time. Portsmouth played very, very well under Harry Redknapp. And who was the guy that played, went on to play for Leeds as well? Midfield player, can't escape me. But he turned his back on the wall and the goal went in. He says that is why they won the game. He says the press will write all kinds of things. 10 years' time, all that will be in the papers or in the records is 1-0 Spurs won. He says, they won't be talking about the game. He was very big on history, right? History will show in 10 years' time the result. Mm-hmm. Okay? What you wrote in the Sun and the Stars tomorrow will be relevant. We can't find it anywhere unless we go to those newspaper offices and take the time to read them. But he said the result, obviously the teams who played, the stadium and the crowd, that's it.
If there's a modern day manager kind of doing now maybe what a Trapattoni would say if he was 30 years younger, is it Simeone at Atletico Madrid? Is the parallels there?
Marino's apparently a big admirer and he's quite close to Simeone for sure. And I think Conte is just a young Trapattoni. It's as simple as that. I mean, I'm pretty sure Conte did exactly what, he's just transformed Chelsea into table toppers. And why is that? I mean, people talk about Costa. What about the Chelsea defence? The defence is unbelievable. Courtois last year looked like he's now back to the Courtois of what he was, and they brought David Luiz, who's been unbelievable this year for them. But Trapattoni had that, and the little things he did, for example, I said the 2v2 cover and marking there for the wide players. The wide players had to do the doubling up job with the fullback, and if you didn't appreciate that, you were passe gone. Stephen Hunt came in, realised that very, very quickly. But Stephen was always that kind of player, very hard working. Duffer was the absolute.
Did his preferences change based on the opposition? So you mentioned the 2v2 doubling up in wide areas. Was it always show you outside? Was it show you inside? Was it dependent on the individual? Because he's so detail oriented.
To be fair now, he trusted the international players. He knew he just wanted to make sure that he got that firmly across them that whenever
get into
an opposition Perez, I meant to say that Brian Kerr did huge work on Perez, but we worked so hard because Perez was that left sider. We had to do a lot of tactical work there and with the players and examples of how to stop Perez, because he was the most difficult player to play against because he didn't appear to be influencing the game at times, and yet he would normally score the match-winning goal, right? And Trapp he wouldn't say to Damien, show him inside or outside, because Damien would know as a top-class player, but he wanted Damien to do what the Southampton right midfielder did the other night in the match against Liverpool, who scored the winning goal there, which is come back and really help your full back at all times, okay? And then break forward. Now, what makes a top-class player, especially like Damien Duff, is that they're so good. He's a double Premiership winning player, okay? And yet, he is willing to listen to a man and put that in place and sacrifice part of his own game to get the result. Now, that's quite a different phenomenon nowadays, because the average guy is thinking about his Mick McCarthy, the name on the back of the jersey, not the front of the jersey, and he's thinking about his agent and the next part. So why would I sacrifice my career? I'll just do what I'm good at here, there. I'll keep looking good on TV, even if I'm not doing my job tracking back. You hear Graham Souness saying it all the time. People not doing basics. What they would expect is being basics. You didn't track back. You've been paid a lot of money. Why did you track back? Can you not run? And that was another thing. You would see somebody say to the doctor, can he not run? Why is he not running back? Yeah. Is there something wrong with him?
And you look at Real Madrid at the moment. I find it fascinating that Zinedine Zidane goes in as manager, and probably, I'm not saying obviously they play fantastic football, but the thing that stands out for me is they're a team that play without ego at the moment. That's what's turned it around at Madrid of all places. And it takes a kind of character like a Zidane or a Trapattoni maybe to help dishevel that ego, if you like, for some of the top players.
But I think the great managers also recognise the value of the big players, right? Giovanni knew that we 5 or 6 really big go-to players in my time, okay, and other guys who became big players under his tutelage, and he made them pretty special as well. But as long as they understood that it was within the way he wanted to play the game, right? I mean, you just have to go to the Italian game. Just spend some time with you, right, and watch their attitude to defending, right? You would be more revered as a defender keeping balls out of the net than putting them in the other end. That's the way the Italians think. So they always start on the premise that we're going to start with 0 against us and we're going to end with 0 against us. Okay? And if we do score a goal the other end, well, that's great. That's the benefit. So, that's the background he came from. And Italians, they've written the books in defensive football. They are the world masters. You can go back to Sacchi, all the way back to Helenio Herrera, the famous suffocating style of defending back in the Inter Milan team in the middle 60s. But Celtic managed to overcome that brilliant Celtic team of 67 under Jack Stein. But they were Catenaccio. That was the system. So he had that in his locker, but he also realised if he coached and got these players, because he was coming into players now. We passed the Italian team in Bari. They packed outside us there. It was a 1-1 draw. We could have won the game. Probably should have won the game. We were lucky to get a draw in the end.
Early sending off.
Early sending off, which was an unfair sending off to the Italians, to be fair.
Yeah.
But they're behind us. That was the 2006 World Cup winning team, right? They were all there at the window. The bus pulled up, and I was just beside it. Their bus pulled up beside us and stopped. And there's Cannavaro, and there's Pirlo, and there's Buffon, and they're all there. And they've all come across the window. And everyone was clapping like that. And Mr. is what they call him, Mr. Okay? And I'm saying, the reverence. Now, he hadn't been successful with them. Things hadn't worked out with the Italian team.
The Japan and Korea was the opposite of the perfect storm, really, wasn't it? It was just...
No, but you had to go back and watch the games again.
But everything that could go wrong went wrong. There was offside decisions, there was sending out, there was all...
I watched the 2 of the games there, and you would not believe the refereeing decisions in those games. Anyway, and he never forgot that. I never forgot the referee's name either. But anyway, point I'm making is, I said to myself, these are the best players in the world. This is the World Cup winning team, and look at the respect they have for him. Right? If we haven't got the same respect, we haven't got a fraction of the medals that these boys have in this bus. Okay, that tells you all you need to know. And when he went into the stadium and even around the town there, everybody wanted his autograph. He was a movie star. He was Clark Gable back in the day, So he had that, and the players realised that. I mean, we could say to Robbie be here. They would say, look. And particularly Robbie, for example, Robbie's best PFR ever was under Giovanni Trapattoni. Giovanni never told Robbie Keane how to score goals. Nobody tells Robbie Keane to score goals, right? Nobody teaches Robbie Keane movement. He learned it in Crumlin as a kid growing up, right? All those skill set. But he made Robbie feel really special. Being captain, Stan being captain as well, but he became captain. And Robbie was always, and the team was built. See, that's the other thing, is that Kevin Doyle became such a huge player for us, and other players too, but Kevin in particular, okay? Because Kevin took up that really tough role of centre forward where he was the battering ram, and Robbie would then pick up the pieces, and then we had the quality of the wide players, Duff, Lawrence, Hunt, and all that. And so the manager actually fitted the team around our talismanic centre forward, 68 goals, okay? That's the cleverness of the man, okay? Well, everyone is saying, well, this fellow should be in the team, he should be in the team, he should be in the team. And then, remarkably, people like Glenn Whelan and Keith Anders became just 2 fantastic steady eddies in the middle of the park who held sway and defensively gave us that platform of all those clean sheets with those 2 wide players, with a 2 up front. And if you asked Robbie, he just did it straight away. What Kevin Doyle said, unbelievable for him those years. And so the manager went from, because confidence was brittle after the Sands time. There was obviously a lot of media reports, and everyone got hammered. The association, the team, the players, the staff, everybody, and he rebuilt all that. And he had all his homework done coming here. He knew us better than we knew ourselves when he started, and he knew the kind of players he wanted in the team. And while the press wanted you and somebody else, well, he realised that if we're going to be successful, we need a different type of personality. That's the personality he's often referred to about players. And when a guy comes into you with a track record like him, you just say, "Go ahead, mate. You're in charge. You've done it all before." And when he got on the team bus for the matches, the lads will tell you, he could with his Armani suit with his pink rose-tinted glasses. I'm telling you now, wasn't a match or a stadium in the world we went to that I thought we were going to lose. And we never lost in about 11, 12 years I was travelling away from home. I think it was Austria was the first game, the first final game. And that's the way you felt. We never, and I kept saying to the boys, home, anytime we were away from home, on flights, friendly, and that was under Brian, that was under, apart from Basel, was the only, that was the, Brian and Stan obviously had the one against Cyprus, but under Martin and under Martin's record's been fantastic. So what I'm trying to say about Giovanni was that he taught us all, right? He taught medicine to the medical staff, he taught analysis to me, he taught football to the players, he taught food to the chef, right? All things he wanted on menus, and that famous porcini mushroom episode where he didn't think that was good and he was throwing soup out the windows and berating chefs and berating the doc, and the doc tells it far better than I do. But he just had that's experience. He's gone through all these clubs and teams and countries and players, and he knows what he's doing, and he knew what he was doing to the very end. It was just unfortunate we didn't have a great Euro campaign. We had a great campaign, but not a great finals in 2012, but against two of the best teams in the world. So in terms of analysis, you mentioned how it grew there, Conor. It grew to the point that Giovanni would, not too much. That was one of his favourites. I would have learned all the way through the paradigm of the curve was not too much. We had this massive information. He wanted to know it all. About players, teams up, and 68 matches I analysed for the two France games. Man United sends hard drives and all the French players. They play against, we have a very good relation with Man United. And over the years, there wasn't anything I did. I knew what they were eating for breakfast, the French nearly, okay? And then even the match at home there, where we were beaten 1-0 with a deflected goal from Sean St. Ledger, who another player, by the way, that's the measure of the man, right? Sean St. Ledger had his finest ever time moments as a player, never mind as an Ireland player, in a green jersey, okay? Now, Sean St. Ledger played like a man inspired under Giovanni Trapattoni. The average guy in the street is saying, what's Sean St. Ledger doing in the team? So again, he had that charisma of being able to. No, if you didn't fit with his plans, you were out the door so fast. The players he has managed in his lifetime. Okay, the caliber world players of the year, all over the place. If you didn't fit in with them, and that's what great managers. They're also ruthless, absolutely ruthless. And so to sum up Giovanni, you basically. And before we get the transition to Martin, he really taught football. Damien Duff was sitting here and he did come to Sydney, and I had a great chat with him, and he said exactly what I'm saying now. He said he couldn't believe what he learned. He said Marino obviously was the guy that taught him the most because he had such a great time for Marino. But he said that Trapattoni, he said that the trust and the faith, that's what it is, faith. Players have to have faith. When they have to, that's why you lose the dressing room, right? You have to have faith in the manager. And it's like Trapattoni it wasn't spellbinding things at half time he'd be saying, right? He'd be nice and calm. He'd be losing 1-0. He's calm, he's saying a few things to players. There's no big beating the drum. He's done all the work during the week. Yes, he's had his go in the dressing room, or maybe in the meetings he might stand up and have a rant at somebody, okay? Or rant at and he would give it loads, and he'd break into Italian, and the press used to say, well, the players don't know what he's saying. Oh no, the players knew what he was saying. You could feel it. Sometimes you can work with someone from another nationality. You mightn't understand everything they're saying, but they get the message across to you in no uncertain terms. And he had that ability, and also that ability there to absolutely take the media in Ireland on a merry dance there for 6 years, where they could never work him out because he could break into diverse tongues, and trapeze was the language they used to kind of ascribe to him, but it was no question. You saw his famous Bayern Munich outburst about Strunz, okay? Basler. So I showed that to the boys, and he was very good that way. He would take light-hearted things out, sometimes wind them up, stitch them up, and show the boys would like that, or comical things, or if he slipped in training, I'd have that, and all the staff, we'd have great fun that way. But we always had great fun with Martin, with Roy, with Giovanni, with Stan, with Brian. It was always that great